So, I mean, I think we gave a lot of really great tips about entrepreneurship already.
No.
But I do want to like ask you for people who might be maybe on the fence about starting a business or, maybe just started one. Like, what things did you learn through your experience that you would pass on to someone else? What should they keep in mind?
My buddy Tony would always say, polish the stone, which means just every day, just do one thing. I mean, if you want to do 100 things in a day, go ahead. But every day, just consistency is going to be success. Can't go hard for 2 days and take a break and then have a negative attitude, you know what I mean? And you can't be, on the fence, jump off the fence and just decide that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Just be consistent and hang around people who are more successful and smarter and who are in the realm of what you want to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get advice, Jim, Nick, like just there's so many people that have helped me. You know what I mean? That's why I'm always grateful for that. You know what I mean? And there's people that want to help.
Right.
And those guys do want to help. If you're honest and you're a good person and you're a hard worker, they love that. I think, unless I just bother them, but you know what I mean?
No, I think you're right. I think I've seen that too from when people are really care about what they do and they see someone else who cares about what they do that are maybe at a lesser stage, like they want to. I think a lot of people are really generous, but they don't want. I think people don't want to waste their time with someone who isn't serious about what they're doing. But if you show that you're serious and you really want to make strides and try to better yourself with some of these things, whether it's entrepreneurship or fitness, I found the same thing in fitness. Like if you really show that you're asking questions of people, but you're showing that you've like done some research on your own and that you have some idea what you're talking about, but you're looking for further advice. I think most people will share what they learned.
And don't be afraid to ask questions, man. And don't be afraid to walk up and just say, hey, I'm thinking about this and this and this. You know what I mean? And don't get discouraged. When I want to start a supplement company, I had 90% of people say it's a dumb idea. You know what I mean? And I want to do statue, and I mean, you've seen the birds. Mm-hmm. I remember being so pumped up, man. I was like, oh man, what a great opportunity. I think we did a great job. And then you go to Facebook and see 470 negative comments and 2 good ones.
Yeah, what was that like? Because that's a tough, we didn't talk about that. What's that like to go through that?
It's motivating. You know what I mean? Like, you'll sink in your chair a bit. You know what I mean? You're human. But it's just motivating. And then, I mean, if people are going to take their time, at least you're doing something. You know what I mean? At least they're talking about you. You know what I mean? But
and I really think, even though I know everyone kind of referred to it as the rusty birds, but I felt like...
Well, they are rusty. There's some truth in that.
But from what it sounded like, it wasn't, the birds weren't really the issue. They were just sort of the symbol of the issue. But the issue was like the project overall was pretty poorly designed with like the way they were saying how the grass was like impossible to cut because of the way they designed it. So it wasn't really like your sculptures like that was.
Well, another part of it is people believed I made way more than I did on those, and people thought I made like a fortune on these birds. I think that was a big thing. It was like a tax issue, or I read that a lot. My taxes don't have to pay for these zombie birds or something. I don't know, whatever. But I don't know. So I think it was more, I think people thought I made way more than I did on the initial ones. And due to that, see, I was supposed to get 36 more.
Yeah.
And because of all the complaints and all that got shut down, which was rough.
Yeah.
That was a big check.
Yeah, because you're gearing up for it.
Yeah. And I was all fired up. But I mean, it's just, you just have to be motivated, negative or positive. I'd have people close to me that said, steel statues will never be anything. You know what I mean? Like, the 180 cuts isn't going to work, lift isn't going to work, but you just keep going and you get around people, stick to people, listen to people that think it is going to,
Yeah.
Because people will be negative, you know what I mean? And usually people want you to do good, but not better than them or not, it's really weird. Like, I want everyone around me to do better than me and great. I just don't, it doesn't bother me.
Well, I've heard a saying that, and I usually am not a big fan of pithy sayings, but this one kind of made some sense. It said, don't listen to criticism from someone who hasn't done what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
I think
correct.
that's pretty solid. I mean, because people, you know, it's really easy to criticize or just say, that won't work. But unless
Yeah.
someone really has an idea of it,
Right.
you know, what do they do? And most people who have done it, they'll have a better idea. They probably won't tell you that won't work. They'll
Right.
say, that's a good idea, but what if you also incorporated this, or what if you
Yeah.
changed this to that? You know, there's usually like, it's more of like tweaking advice you'll get from
Yeah.
people who have already done what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and people that are doing very well usually will not say negative stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I noticed that.
That's true too.
So like the some people that aren't doing anything and are just negative come at me with how everything's gonna fail, and it's just, you know, whatever. It's like a battery, man. Positive and negative. Just use it to charge you up. Let's just keep ripping. That's what
For
I
sure.
think. But
One thing I wanted to ask you too, and this is a concept I've been interested in lately, is I've heard the phrase launch ugly. And the idea is like, you know, you can't get everything perfect before you start, and that you kind of quote unquote build the bus as you're driving it. And,
yeah,
and I think there's a balance, because you don't want to just like, I think you don't want to just like jump into something with no plan, but I think also there's a balance of, you know, you don't want everything, you can't have everything perfect, because it's never going to be, and you're going to learn a
Correct.
lot as you're doing
yeah.
it. What do you think about that, and what do you think about that balance, and how would you explain that?
I agree
balance
with
to
that.
someone?
That's
Yeah.
not a, you know, I mean, you can try to do your best, but that one thing that goes along with that is you'll never be ready. I was never ready for NFP 180, you know, and everything we kind of just polished the stone, kept going a little better, added this, got rid of that. That was, you know what I mean? And NFP started with, you know what I mean, 10 products. Now we got our solid 7. You know, kind of got rid of those. That doesn't work. You know, we don't like that, or, you know what I mean? Focus on the ones that we like the best. But
Yeah.
you're never ready. No one's ever ready to be like, oh, I'm gonna start my business. Now I'm ready. You know?
Yeah, and I also imagine that every one of your businesses, and you kind of alluded to that every one of your businesses really changed from when you first started it. Maybe not.
Oh yeah, they evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, the first lift was really CrossFit oriented,
Yeah.
I believe, and now I don't think any of yours are, or
No,
are they?
we
No.
sold that portion of it.
Okay, yeah.
So it was split down the middle. There was CrossFit and there was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool, just because you got to meet a lot of different people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was cool that we started that way.
And you could try it, right?
Yeah.
If you were a lifter,
Yeah.
and you could say, okay, maybe I'll give that CrossFit a try.
Yeah.
Do it in the same gym. It
Yeah.
makes some sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so Andy Adrian, you know, he's still doing adventure weights, which that became, you know what I mean, which is
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right down, kind of down the hill on Kent. Is that right?
That's right next to us. So Lift in West
That's right
End,
next- Oh,
and then in the same
oh,
building.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. I just saw it the
Yeah.
other day. Yep.
So that's the best CrossFit gym, man. I don't know I've ever seen, and they do it really good. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
so, and we got to be friends with them. You know, through this, you get to meet all these awesome people. You know,
Mhm.
so it is kind of cool, and they support 180 Cuts, which is awesome, and NFP. So
And so the lift gyms have kind of become more of a weightlifting / circuit training